Hey guys, my name is Matthew and I am clearly an American. I spent a year in the UK starting about 2 years ago. Actually, about a year and 9 days ago, I came back to the United States with my family. Some COVID related things happened as far as visas being extended and whatnot. And this is my video about our reverse culture shock. Here we go. So this is a highly requested video. This is one of the videos that people requested that I do the most on our way back. And we actually made lists about things that we noticed that were reverse culture shock issues when we got back. So I have 5 things that we're going to talk about. I think it's 5 about when we first got back, the first 5 things we noticed. And now that it's been a year and it's come around past the year mark, there are 3 other things that I've also noticed that have kind of hit me as reverse culture shock. Like they're more long-standing things that is like, man, these things actually bother me, and these are things that I really miss about the UK. Maybe a few of the things that I most miss about the UK are these kind of the last 3 things. So these are the things that are hit me as reverse culture shock. I got used to it in the UK. I came back to the US, and it's like, oof. Both places are home to me in different ways. They both have things that like they shock me, and I'm like, really, you do things that way? That's crazy to me because I lived in the UK. And some of them are, oh, that's crazy to me because I lived in the US my whole life. These are the things that, yeah, the reverse culture shock pieces, which I think people sometimes underestimate how big of an effect they can have. Let's get right into them. The first one may seem silly, but it's literally ice water. We noticed right away and within the first few days that every time that we got water, we didn't get just water, we got ice water. Everything is chilled. And we'll get to why in just a second because I think there's a reason for it. But the water is all ice water, and it seems like such a slight thing, but it was really kind of like, oh, this is different. We're in a different place now because we always get offered ice water. Another thing we noticed, and this was literally right away, as soon as we stepped off the plane, we noticed in the difference in the way that we were treated as customers. There's customer service differences between the US and the UK. And when you go into a business or an establishment or even just the airport, when you have to talk to people, there's like a very different persona that's get put on from an American doing customer service versus someone in the UK or England or even in Europe, to be honest, doing customer service. It's just such a different environment, such a different atmosphere and kind of energy surrounding customer service. And it's something I actually appreciate. I know some people have different opinions about that customer service. They feel like it's fake or something like that, but I appreciate it. It makes me feel like whether it is fake or not, it kind of makes me feel like actually right now you're the most important thing because you're my customer. And so I appreciate that. It was something we noticed, and it was a bit of a culture shock. We're like, wow, why are you paying me so much attention? Why do you care so much for just a minute when you get off the airplane? The next thing that we noticed is that everything is bigger in the United States than in the UK. And I really mean that. The way that we first kind of started noticing this, though, is we got off of the plane in Chicago O'Hare and immediately drove like 7 hours to Dayton, Ohio. And that was like, it was like, oh yeah, road tripping in the US is like not a big deal, even though the spaces are so huge. Actually, within a week, we road tripped 18 hours to Colorado Springs. We did it in 2 stops. That was like 1,200 miles, and we just knocked it out literally in 2 days. Everything's bigger. It's like not just road trip stuff either. It's like supplies in stores. There's like bulk food. The fridges are different sizes. It's something we noticed going to the UK, but it was weird going back and feeling like there's so much space around me everywhere I go. The rooms are larger, the houses are bigger, the lanes of our roads are bigger. The US is a larger place, and that seems obvious, but it translates to everything. Storage, the cars themselves are bigger. The people are also bigger. That's not necessarily a good thing. There are elements of that that are good and elements of that are bad, but everything in the US is just bigger. It's a large place, and all of the things within it reflect that as well. And then another thing we noticed right away, we got off the airplane in Chicago O'Hare, and it's not the hottest place in the US at all, but it was so hot and so humid, nothing like we experienced in the UK whatsoever. And that was true for the winter as well. It was just, even in Dayton, Ohio, which again is not the coldest place, we got a lot of snow this winter. It was very cold, frequently well below 0 Fahrenheit, and it was just cold all the time in the winter, and it's hot in the summer, and humid. Like, we actually passed through, like I said, Kansas, and that first couple of weeks we drove to Colorado. We stopped in Kansas, and it was 120 degrees Fahrenheit and like 99% humidity. It was miserable. And I think the extremes of the U.S., the weather extremes of the U.S., are just such a crazy culture shock in comparison to the very mild climate you have in the UK. So that was a crazy extreme culture shock for us. Okay, I want to get to some of the things that are a little bit more substantial as far as culturally what things were shocking to us and have been continued to be kind of shocking to us as we've moved forward. The first one is one that Danielle and I have been talking about a lot recently. It's something we miss a lot, which are the accents and kind of the humor of British citizens. It's just different. People in the UK, people in England, actually I especially notice people in Scotland, they're so funny and they have such a specific type of humor. Danielle notices it when she watches the Great British Bake Off. We notice it on Sunday mornings when we do Zoom with our England church. I notice it when I'm talking to my friends on WhatsApp and they send me a voicemail and I'm like, oh man, the way these people talk, the way that my friends, their humor, their accents, the variedness of the accents, I miss it. And that's something that we've kind of noticed actually in the US, it's just different. There's something different about all of that, the accents, the humor, all of that kind of rolls together into personalities, and we miss our UK friends. Another thing that I personally have been reflecting on a lot recently is the food. In the US, there are fast food joints everywhere. There are a lot of restaurants too, like chain restaurants and things like that, and they're not healthy. Just to be completely frank, they're barely food. And so to put this into a food category is maybe disingenuous because they are really barely food. And then also, this has something to do with the specific part of the US that I'm in as well, but it's harder to find healthy food. For instance, kale, which I would consider a staple in the area that I'm in right now, the Walmart that I go to, it sometimes is literally not in stock. And when it is in stock, a lot of times it's like really old kale that they've marked down because they're trying to get rid of it. And a lot of those healthy food choice staples that I would consider, like, this is just something you eat. People here don't buy very often, so it's hard for the stores to keep them in stock. And so and like I said, that's a very localized issue. That's not an issue necessarily everywhere in the US, that specific one that I was talking about with kale, but unhealthy food choices is a US staple. That's a hard thing to ignore when you look at the statistics on it. US citizens are not as healthy. UK, you are actually working your way towards us. You guys are getting less healthy as well. But the US is less healthy than the UK, and it's something that is a cultural problem that I still sometimes find shocking. I'm like, how is there no kale? Are you kidding? That's crazy. How is there no kale in this store? I don't know. And then the last one, and in some ways, I think recently it's become just more and more of an issue that I'm aware of. I have two friends that their stories kind of parallel each other. One of them is in the UK, and we've been praying desperately for his child, who has had some complications, some health issues and whatever. And one thing that they are just not worried about is the money aspect of things at all. They're able to stay at a Ronald McDonald house, which is awesome. So glad that McDonald's is able to do that. You can think what you want to about the fast food. I just got finished bashing them, but the Ronald McDonald's house is awesome. And then on the other side, I've got a friend here in the US who's having health issues, and she's like battling insurance in addition to battling the health issues that she's working on. And it's a really sad thing to have to chronicle and recognize, like, actually, the healthcare situation in the US is not just a mess. It's also, like, it's so much more than just a mess. It's disastrous. You know what I mean? Like, it's not messy. It's, like, horrible. And it's interesting how well we just accept that as a culture and being able to get out and see the UK. And actually, we had a child in the UK. And then come back to the US. And we don't personally have those same insurance issues. Like, our family's never had to go through that, but we watch other people do it. And it's culture shock to see, like, yeah, that's crazy that a ride to the hospital could cost you that much. And if you weren't prepared for it, and the responsible thing to do as a U.S. citizen is to prepare for it, which is what my wife and I have tried to do. We haven't had these issues, but you don't always know how to prepare for these things. And even if you do have insurance, you're fighting insurance instead of insurance fighting for you. And I don't know, all of those things. So part of our culture shock has been seeing, before we left for the U.K., there was kind of this thought of like, oh yeah, well, there's a general vibe, a general thought in the U.S. that's been held for a long time, which is socialized medicine doesn't work. And there are obviously some pitfalls to the UK system as well, but the shock of coming back and seeing how many people are fighting and battling in the healthcare issue, it just kind of brings it home for me that, yeah, it may not work, and our system's not working either. It may not be perfect. There's a lot of things that are wrong with the UK health system, with the NHS, but there may be more things wrong over on this side. And so, yeah, I guess that's the last one we've got is the culture shock of seeing the way that our healthcare system works through new eyes. If you've enjoyed this video, a little bit different vibe than some of our others, we're still putting out content every once in a while, obviously not with the same rate that we were before. Let us know in the comments if you want to see us cover a specific issue, especially now that we've been living in the US. Obviously our content is different than it was when we were in the UK, but we want to know, what do you guys want to see us cover? Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you've enjoyed this, like, subscribe. We put out new content every once in a while. Feel free to look back through a lot of our other content though. We've got dozens and dozens of videos, all comparing US culture versus UK culture. Thanks guys so much, and as always, see you next time.